Hello, this video, I want to talk about some battle reports. Okay, let's go. So those of you who've been watching my videos will know that I've been painting my 4th edition Empire army for Warhammer. As it transpires, this force is also a 500 point force for the old world. So I asked some friends would they like to have a few games, and they obliged. So I want to go over the few games I've had so far with my force. So in each game I use the same force. I'll go over it now. I have a Chapter Master who has hand weapon, heavy armour, shield, Order of the Blazing Sun, General, Bard Warhorse and the Biting Blade. With him I have a unit of 5 Empire Knights of the Blazing Sun who have hand weapons, lance, shields, heavy armour, barding and a standard bearer. Supporting them is 25 state troops with hand weapons, halberds, light armour, a sergeant, a standard bearer and a musician. For a bit of range support I have 10 state missile troops who have hand weapons, handguns and a standard bearer and a musician. And this is a nice 499 point force. Sadly I couldn't spend the last point. For my first game was against Warriors of Chaos, who managed to spend all their 500 points on their force exactly. Their general was an exalted sorcerer who has a hand weapon, light armour, Mark of Chaos Undivided, he was level 2 wizard, he was on foot and had earthen rod and was using battle magic. For core units, it was 5 Chaos Warriors with halberds, heavy armour, shield, Mark of Chaos Undivided, a champion who had the charm shield and a standard bearer. Following them was 5 Chaos Knights with lances, shields, heavy armour, barding, Mark of Chaos Undivided and with a champion. For a bit of more punchy support, shall we say, were 2 Dragon Ogres, each with great weapons and heavy armour. These were a real threat for me. For their 2 spells, the Chaos Sorcerer had Arcane, Urgency and Fireball, the latter of which was quite potent in this game, as you'll find out later. So with spells rolled for, it was time for deployment. My Empire army deployed first, and I went for quite a standard central strength force deployment. My knights were in the middle of the battlefield, where they could either go on the left flank or the right flank as needed. The halberdiers protecting the left flank of my knights, ready to receive any chaos threat. And going quite wide on the right flank, I deployed my handgunners in a long formation where they were ready to lay down a hail of lead at anything that came towards them. The Chaos Warrior force was deployed, with the Dragon Ogres on the left side facing off against my Knights of the Blazing Sun, their right flank were the Chaos Knights, they could threaten my halberdiers, and in the middle were the unit of 5 Chaos Warriors and the Chaos Sorcerer, who was not joining the unit but was near enough to have protection from them. I managed to get the first turn. The Knights of the Blazing Sun rode forward, using the building in the middle to protect their left flank. The halberdiers moved forward with the woods protecting their left flank. The handgunners with nothing in range, nothing in sight, moved to a better position for next turn. With a tasty target in sight, the Dragon Ogres let forth a bellowing rage as they declared charge on the Knights of the Blazing Sun. The Knights of the Blazing Sun, lucky with their counter-charge, accepted this and returned the favour, charging into the Dragon Ogres. With that done, the rest of the Chaos Army surged forward. The Chaos Warriors, eager to get to grips with the halberdiers, opened ground and went forward. The Chaos Knights went on a wide manoeuvre to get to the flank of the halberdiers. The Chaos Sorcerer kept close to the halberdiers to make sure that he was safe from any enemy attacks. With combat joined, it was a brutal affair between the Dragon Ogres and the Knights of the Blazing Sun. The Knights of the Blazing Sun, due to their Chapter Master and the benefit of initiative from countercharge, went first. They didn't manage to kill a Dragon Ogre, but they had 1 on 1 wound remaining, and in return the Dragon Ogres slew 3 of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. However, due to all the combat resolution benefits of Knights of the Blazing Sun with the standard bearer and wounds caused, they managed to win the combat. The Dragon Ogres, with an unlucky roll, were broken and were cut down by the Knights of the Blazing Sun. The Empire's second turn was uneventful. The handgunners again had nothing in range or line of sight now that the dragons were dead, so they advanced a little bit and manoeuvred in a way that they had a better scope of the battlefield. The Knights of the Blazing Sun had to turn around to come about, where they could then start threatening the rear units of the Chaos force. And the Halberdiers just cautiously moved forward to make sure that they could not get flank charged by the Chaos Knights and to keep their left flank protected by the woods. Turn 2 for the Chaos Warriors saw the Chaos Knights come about and move forward towards the Knights of the Blazing Sun who had appeared behind them. The Chaos Sorcerer cautiously moved around the Knights of the Blazing Sun so they could not get a charge on him. However, the Chaos Warriors had charged into the big block of Halberdiers. When combat was met between the Halberdiers and the Chaos Warriors, the Chaos Champion issued forth a challenge. The unit of Halberdiers Sergeant accepted and sadly was cut down straight away. The remaining Chaos Warriors ripped into the unit of Halberdiers where they slew 3 of the brave Empire State troops. In return, the Empire State troops, having received a charge, could fight back in 2 ranks, and with their sheer numbers they managed to wipe out the full unit of Chaos Warriors. And they captured the standard bearer and they surged forward. On to Empire turn 3. The Halberdiers, drunk on victory from killing the Chaos Warriors, surged forward to threaten the Chaos Sorcerer. The handgunners could now draw line of sight towards the Chaos Sorcerer. Only 5 were in range. 1 hit was made, it wounded, but sadly his Chaos armour saved him from a wound. On the other flank, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, led by the Chapter Master, charged into the Chaos Knights, who returned the favour with their countercharge. An issue was challenged, the Chaos Champion accepted, and in a flurry of blows, it turned out that no one could hurt anyone apart from a Chaos Steed, which managed to kick the Grandmaster and caused a wound. The rest of the units fumbled their attacks, apart from the Chaos Warriors, who managed to kill 2 of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Seeing his men die before him and a horse hit him in the face, he thought the best thing to do would be to run away, which he did. Luckily, the Chaos Knights did not capture him. Instead, they moved forward and crashed into the flank of the Halberdiers, which would be a combat to be fought next turn. So on to Chaos turn 3. The Chaos Sorcerer moved forward and blasted the Halberdiers with a fireball, which killed, I think it was about 4 of them, and that was enough to cause a panic check, and they skirted tail and ran. The Chaos Knights piled into the Halberdiers in the flank and found their lances were made of rubber or were either broken from the previous combat with the Knights of Blazing Sun, and managed to kill not a single Halberdier. The Halberdiers in return didn't cause any wounds, but due to all their combat resolution, they managed to win with the standard bearer and having the outnumbering and also having close order. The Chaos Knights then turned tail and fled. Sadly, no more photographs were taken at this point because the phones were being used to keep a track on the points and also the rules, because of the FAQs and whatnot. But at this point in the game had drawn to an end. All that was left on the battlefield for the Chaos Army was the Chaos Sorcerer, whereas the Empire had a untouched unit of Halberdiers. Obviously the general was fleeing and the handgunners were fleeing, but they could have rallied next turn. So that was the first game in the bag with a victory towards the Empire. The second game was my Empire force allied with a 500 point High Elf force against a 1000 point army of Orcs and Goblins. This was an alliance of necessity because the Orcs had turned up with a very fast army. There was not one single unit of infantry. It was, I think, about 4 chariots and 3 or 4 units of very fast, hard-hitting Orcs and Goblins. 1 big unit of Wolf Riders, 1 big unit of Spider Riders, and 2 big, scary units of Savage Orcs on boars. There was also a Snot and Pump Wagon, and I think there might have been a wizard there as well, somewhere on another chariot. Oh yeah, it was a wolf chariot, so it was a goblin chariot. A goblin wizard rather, sorry. For deployment, I set my force on the far flank. So I had forced the Orc and Goblin army to come towards me on a narrow frontage. My left flank had been protected by the High Elves, and to the extreme side of that were my handgunners, who were covering the flank of both forces. So the enemy had to come around. This was a way to deny the larger battlefield and movement advantage of the Orcs and Goblin force. They had to come towards us over a narrow frontage. And I think this was key to victory. So turn 1 didn't receive much action. The Knights of Blazing Sun moved in a way that they could threaten units with their countercharge. The Halberdiers cautiously moved forward, with the elves on their left flank moving forward. The handgunners sadly stayed still and to draw the enemy towards them. They didn't want to move and have an enemy closer and only get one round of shooting in. The high elf archers, they couldn't see anything, so sadly just got to a better position. The Orc and Goblin turn 1 was a sight to behold. They surged forward en masse with a big unit of frenzied savage orcs on boars with their bats and a bearer running towards the Knights of the Blazing Sun, getting extremely close, as did the rest of the Orcs and Goblin army, getting close to the Empire and to the Halberdiers. The other flank saw a Snot and Pump Wagon come into range of the handgunners. On to turn 2 for the Empire and High Elves. Seeing the opportunity, the Halberdiers charged into the exposed flank of the Savage Orcs on boars who had come towards them and the Knights of the Blazing Sun. This then allowed the Knights of the Blazing Sun to charge them without being countercharged. Also, the distance between them was less than their movement value, so they couldn't countercharge. This allowed both units to get the charge on a very nasty unit, which was crucial to that combat going on. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, the Empire handgunners managed to shoot at the Snot and Pump Wagon, and they caused 5 wounds, of which all were failed, and it was promptly destroyed. The other side saw the High Elves charge into a Orc chariot with their chariots, and also the Thracian woodsmen charged into the other chariot that had come towards them. With combat met, the Halberdiers and Knights of the Blazing Sun made short work of the Savage Orcs on boars. They wounded the Battle Standard Bearer, and they slew, 3 or 4 of the Savage Orcs on boars, who then turned and fled, and as there was a unit of Halberdiers in their flank, which was a bigger unit, that is what they had to flee from. This then allowed the frontage of the Knights of the Blazing Sun to be open on their turn, next turn rather, which was fantastic. Sorry, slight correction there. Knights of the Blazing Sun, they actually managed to overrun into the unit of Wolf Riders, not exposed to it. Meanwhile, on the other flank, the High Elves battled against the Orcs. The 2 chariots didn't do much really. It was a drawn combat. They didn't give ground. While the Thracian woodsmen sadly lost the combat against the frenzied Savage Orcs on boars, but they just gave ground a little bit really. They held, but they didn't do much damage. So on to turn 2 for the Orcs and Goblins. The Spider Riders came billowing out of the woods towards the handgunners, followed by a Goblin Wizard on Wolf Chariot, who found his range of spells was not quite there yet. Meanwhile, the Wolf Riders, who were in combat because of the Knight of the Blazing Sun overran into them, was tied down. The centre slog between the High Elves and the Orcs and Goblins continued. The Wolf Riders sadly didn't fare well against the Knights of the Blazing Sun and were hacked down, and they turned and they fled off the battlefield. And that was pretty much it for the turn 2 of the Orcs and Goblins. The centre was just a back and forth between the High Elves and the Goblins, and Orcs rather, and nothing really was going to give ground there. Just a bit of back and forth really. So on to turn 3 for the High Elves and the Empire. Seeing that the High Elves were struggling somewhat, the brave Halberdiers managed to charge into the chariots that had held up the Lion Chariot of the High Elves. The handgunners, in another display of superb shooting, managed to level their guns and kill 4 of the Spider Riders who were coming towards them, which then turned and fled. The Knights of the Blazing Sun managed just to come around and start threatening the flanks of the rest of the Greenskin army, as the Wolf Riders had fled off the battlefield. The combat of the Halberdiers and the chariots saw the Halberdiers use the halberds to turn the chariot into firewood. It was destroyed. And then the unit moved forward to threaten the rest of the Orc and Goblin army that was in the centre, or what was remaining of the centre. Meanwhile, in the centre of the battlefield, the High Elf General had fallen to combat against the unit champion of the Savage Orcs on boars. The next turn for the Greenskins saw the wizard on Wolf Chariot come towards the handgunners. Again, he was out of range for any of his spells. The remaining combat in the middle of the battlefield were just a slog fest. Nothing really going on there, just a bit of back and forth blows being landed, but armor saving or units just remain in combat. The fleeing units continued to flee off the battlefield, and that was pretty much it for the turn for the Greenskins. Quite uneventful, sadly. The next turn for the High Elves and the Empire saw the handgunners level their guns again at the coming threat and managed to cause a single wound on the Wolf Chariot wizard. The halberdiers, bolstered by their victories, charged into the flank of the chariot that contained the Orc general that was engaged in combat with the Thracian woodsman. The Knights of the Blazing Sun had nothing to charge and just moved forward to again threaten the flank and rears of the Greenskin army. In combat against the Orc general, the halberdiers, they didn't cause any wounds, but with their sheer mass and sheer press of numbers, they won the combat convincingly, helping their high elves, and this caused the Orc general to run away. On to the last turn of the game, which was with the Orcs and Goblins. All that was left now on the battlefield was their wizard on Chariot, who ran forward, into the unit of handgunners, and due to his proximity, they could not stand shoot. So he piled in there and he, obliterated them, shall we say, if the charge attack impact hits. That was the end of the game, really, because there was not much that the Greenskins could do at this point. That was all that was left. So with that done, it was a victory to the High Elf and the Empire alliance. Sadly, the High Elves even admitted that their dice rolls weren't too good, so they didn't really do much, where the Empire seemed to be the dominating force on the battlefield, getting the crucial charges off and winning combats by quite some margins when they managed to see combat. So this is 2 games in now of the 500-point force. I must say I am enjoying the smaller point games. 500 points is a good way, I think, to experience the game. It allows players to get to grips with the rules, and it keeps out some of the more nasty combinations that people can spring on players. It also focuses more on rank and file units. You can take some chariot armies, as we've seen, but I don't think they fare well, especially now with the new changes to infantry being able to fight in 2 ranks if they're charged. And I also found the change to halberds now with the armor piercing rule and armor bane 2, I think it is, been really good in combat. So armor bane 1 rather. It was fantastic for them to weigh down and chop up the enemy units. So that's 2 games in now with my 500-point force. The next step is, as you know, I'm painting my cannon, my wizard, and my Battle Bearer. So that will bring this force in the old world up to 750 points. So I'm hoping to get some games in when they're finished painted as well, and I'll hopefully report back on how that goes. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, as always, leave a comment below, and I'll catch you later.